So it's officially summer. And what's summer without some music? I needed somewhere to put my speaker, so I built something. The pod side table. Whenever I start designing a new project, I find it helpful to set myself a constraint. One that isn't too limiting, but enough to give me a slight direction, which helps guide my early design decisions. In this case, the speaker was that constraint. After a bit of sketching, I eventually came upon an idea that I liked. The concept was to have a simple floating box, which was supported by these antenna-like legs, a type of pod. I started out by making the actual box. I cut the pieces out of some plywood so that they were 8 inches wide, but I think 10 inches would have been best. I made some 45-degree bevel cuts for the box's edges, and then made a few dados to add a few shelves. Before gluing the 4 pieces together, I used some 120 grit sandpaper to sand everything clean. The pieces were too big to glue up in one shot, so I did the glue up in 2 parts, making sure to wait at least 25 minutes before removing the tape. While the box was drying, I cut out 3 shelves using the miter saw. Before gluing in the shelves or painting anything, I did a dry fit to make sure everything fit into place perfectly. While editing, I noticed a missed opportunity. What if the shelves popped out by a 1/4 of an inch or so? I think it would have added a bit more texture to the pod's relatively flat elevation. As with anything, the more you work on something, the more you understand it and know both its strengths and weaknesses. After having added a coat of paint, I was ready to start working on the pod's legs. I ripped some 2-inch wide strips before heading to the miter saw to cut the legs at a 15-degree angle. I then took out my grandpa's old bandsaw to taper the legs. This old thing can be a little hard to maneuver, but at the end of the day, it gets the job done. For the final cuts of the build, I cut out 16 pieces of plywood to help space the legs apart. I then glued in the shelves, which made the entire box a lot sturdier. The pod's legs were made by layering different pieces of plywood on top of each other. This technique simplified the build, and as a bonus, the layered edges of the plywood contrasted nicely with the white box. Once everything was glued together, I sanded everything down and added a coat of Danish oil. This really made the layers of plywood pop. Whenever I used to work with plywood, I always tried to hide the edges at all costs. But this project goes to show that if used in the right way, the layered edges can actually be a key feature in the design. Summer is a time for play, a time to break away from what you've been doing and gain a new perspective, a time to relax, travel, or simply go outside and take a walk. We don't get that many of these, so make the most of it. As Casey Neistat once said, sleep in September.
Hey guys, we just hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. That's amazing, and hopefully it's just the beginning. As usual, if you like this video, hit that like button, and if you haven't already, check out my Instagram and Facebook page. I'll make sure to include links in the description below. Enjoy your summer and make sure to stay hydrated. Follow Nougat's example. He drinks tons of water.